welcome to another episode of Are You Done Yet? The Innovative E podcast about your project management and work challenges. I'm Mike Taylor, and as always, I have with me Brian Quick.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Are You Done Yet? What's on tap for today, Mike? We got a big agenda, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. We just had a webinar last month, just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. We got another one coming up in partnership with Microsoft. They're going to be joining us on that. That's pretty exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. It's kind of cool. We got a Super Bowl coming up, so we'll talk a little football.
Yeah.
So why don't you take us through the agenda here?
All right. So we're going to recap the last webinar, which was really focused on using Microsoft Project Desktop with Teams and how our Teams for PM solution enables that. Was really well attended. I think we had about 150 people sign up and about 80 people attend. So it was really well attended. We're going to talk about the webinar we have coming up on February 22nd, which is the 5 Keys to Project Management Nirvana.
Yep.
I'm excited about that one. And then we're also going to, since it's that time of year and everybody's talking about football, we're going to talk a little bit about what role people think a project manager might be on a football team.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
And kind of discuss that a little bit.
A lot of opinions
and then we'll
on
go
that,
into our customer corner and a little bit of preview as to what's coming next with capabilities and functionality of Teams for PM.
Yeah.
So a big agenda today. I don't know if we're going to get through it in 30 minutes. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So the last webinar, I think the genesis for the last webinar, at least part of the genesis for the last webinar, was that we had attended the PMI Global event where Microsoft hosted a booth and had us be one of the partners in the booth. We had a lot of conversations, hundreds of conversations. And one of the things that really stood out, you and I talked about afterwards, kind of debriefing about it, is how much desktop, Microsoft Project Desktop, is still out there. There were a lot of conversations. People were kind of confused about all the product sets that Microsoft has in the work and project management. So there was a lot of education going on, but there was an awful lot of people who were like, well, I'm still using desktop, or I'm using desktop and I'm using maybe a little bit of project for the web or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of desktop. So that's, I think, was really where you kind of wanted to take this conversation, and it seemed fairly well received, about how can you move from like that desktop experience into moving into more of a collaborative cloud-based experience.
Yeah, and really, Project Desktop, probably isn't going anywhere for a while. I mean, people are relying on it every day to, do everything from build buildings to launch rockets into space. So I think it's gonna be with us for a while, and Microsoft's really focusing on the moving to the new products, which is Project for the web and Teams. But we want to help people who are using Project on the desktop because it's the right tool for the job. We want to help those people be more collaborative. So we've got a solution, whereas we basically take Project for the desktop and move it entirely into Teams, and I demonstrated that on the webinar.
Right, and there's a few steps involved with that, and then there's some licensure and things that go into it,
Yeah.
But it definitely can be done, start to modernize, and then you can collaborate on a larger scale. You can start to bring other people in rather than creating what a lot of people do today is they create like a team site or some kind of share or something, and then they generate their schedule. They take a PDF of it, and they share it up there, or they use the BI center that's within the desktop component, which is pretty cool. You can do some cool reports and stuff in there, and they publish those out as static images, and you can start to move into more of a dynamic kind of arrangement like we've talked about for a long time with our Project Online customers.
Yeah, and it uses the Project Online service, which has been around for a while, but really only as a means of pushing the project to the online service, so that then it becomes available inside of Teams for others to view and even edit. So that's the purpose of the Project Online service in that particular scenario. And every Teams is basically doing Teams for PM, our app, and Teams are doing pretty much everything else in terms of the collaboration and centralization of the data. As a matter of fact, let's just show our users real quick, how that works.
Okay, awesome.
So here we are in Microsoft Project, on a desktop. I've got a project called Facilities Upgrades, and it's a simple project schedule. But what I have is the capability here of syncing and publishing this project. There's a publish button, and what happens there is it publishes that to Project Online, those of you that have Project Online or Project Server are already familiar with this process. That's going to publish it to the central database available in your Microsoft 365 tenant and make that information available and reportable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
From there, I can go on to Teams, and I'm going to open up Teams real quick here in a browser. You can see it's the same project schedule showing through Teams in a tab here called Project, basically in a team channel called Facility Upgrades. So what Teams for PM did is it created the channel automatically through the workflow and governance, and then it provisioned the schedule. The schedule was provisioned with Project on a desktop using the Project Online service to sync it to the web. And you can use a template of your choosing when it provisions that. Then there's also the project report, which is the automated status report that Teams for PM creates and provisions with Power BI right there in the channel, as well as other tabs like for issues, lessons learned, and risks. And they're all basically deployed in a way that's consistent so people can use them to update their project information, and then it flows back to the central database for reporting. So what you get is a centralized app for all of your projects that you're working on, whether or not it's using Project Desktop or the new project for the web tool. All of your project data and all the work is in one place. So
and that's huge, being able to see everything that folks are working on. And I think there's some plans on the roadmap to actually put Planner in there for as well, right? And maybe even ADO on the roadmap.
yeah, so our dev team had come up with this variable scheduling option. So depending on the nature of the project, you might want to use Project Desktop or the new project for the web, which is, for those of you that don't know, that a much simpler tool to use, and it's only available online. And we've got some feedback from customers and other conversations that we're in. Well, why don't you add Planner to the mix and as an execution type? Because the whole idea is to span like the complexity spectrum, so from really simple projects to very complex, and Planner's part of that. So we wanted to add that to the mix.
Right. And Planner comes with your Microsoft 365 subscription. So it gives you an option to, even though things like Project for the Web, the licensure is not that much, it actually gives you an opportunity to get started, and you can provide some of that governance and other things that our product Teams for PM provides.
And then also similar to that conversation, folks, you can do some sprints and some Scrum with Project for the Web. Actually, you can create your sprints and move them from one sprint to another, in a card-like fashion. But some folks are already using Azure DevOps for something similar, and they use it for their whole dev lifecycle. So it's not just for the boards, and they want to be able to use that as an execution method.
Right.
And so we're going to be adding that as well. How that's going to play out exactly is kind of exciting, because a lot of folks are challenged with the, I do some agile work and I do some more traditional project management type of work, and how do I blend those things together in one place? So we're tackling that, and right now we've got this portfolio dashboard, and it has right now the two execution mechanisms: Project Desktop and Project for the Web, combining that data together in one place for reporting purposes. Now we're going to be adding the other two, so Planner and ADO.
Azure DevOps, yep.
There's going to be some challenges in that, in creating that full picture of what's going on in the organization, because the nature of the work is a little bit different, but we're working on how exactly to reflect that.
You have to build some assumption in, but you're right. There's a tremendous amount of work going on with the blended type of approach, because there's a lot of execution that's going on in software development where they've chosen to use ADO to do that work and keep all the people in that, but they still need to report on these initiatives at a higher level, and that looks a lot more like traditional project and portfolio management to the executives and the stakeholders. when's the beginning, where's the end, who's involved, what's the budget, and those kind of things.
So that's what we looked at our last webinar. And if you'd like to view the whole video, it's on our website, teams4pm.com. That's teams4pm.com. Check it out. We post all our latest webinars there.
Yeah, the other thing I want to bring up, and I've been told that we need to do this more, is to promote our YouTube channel. So subscribe, and we'll remind you a couple more times, because you'll get reminders when you're in your feed there of new content that we posted, which we post all the time.
Yep. So next thing we want to talk about, Mike, is kind of the upcoming webinar and what we've got in store for folks there.
Yeah, that's really exciting. We've come up with this over time. We've seen these trends kind of develop. So as you mentioned a few minutes ago, the name of this one is the 5 Keys to Project Management Nirvana, and it really covers some areas of. So I'll actually read through what they are. There's the inconsistent and chaotic project and work collaboration, right? So.
Okay.
That kind of talks about the multiple tools, and there's all those tools out there, and we talk about these all the time. There's 4 that you just mentioned that are all Microsoft based. There's dozens of others that are out there.
Right.
The whatever dayoftheweek.com.
Yeah.
All these others that are out there. And so you have all this project information, and it can become chaotic. Plus, there's spreadsheets, right?
Excel. Yeah.
Excel, right?
Forget Excel.
Yeah, and email and things like that. So. There's inconsistent, and part of the thing in that webinar we just did, you posted a poll that asked what one of the major challenges were, and I think about 30% it was inconsistent and chaotic project work collaboration. So being able to bring people together in the same experience. So very, very close to that, and I kind of mentioned it, chasing different information and disconnected tools, varying security, siloed data. That's the kind of the evolution of putting things in different places. One of the other things that creates is a brittle reporting structure. So what we notice, and the third thing is brittle reporting via spreadsheets and ad hoc data structures, because it becomes the least common denominator. When you have data in areas where it's hard to connect it, you just start manually pulling this information, or using some forms of data feeds like ODBC or other things to pull data in. Then you start manually kind of munging it together to try to get what you need to do to have actionable information, to make better decisions, to get your stakeholders involved, to deconflict, if there's a resource or other kinds of or schedule types of conflicts, the things that everybody runs into all the time in project management.
Right.
The fourth piece is the complexity from non-standard automation tools. What we're really getting at here is what happens when you need to start putting some of these pieces to life. A great example of this is the intake, right? So every organization has kind of their own flavor of how projects get into a portfolio and how you're going to work them. From the basic ideas to and keeping them in a consistent place, to how do you approve those, how do you then balance those against what's in the portfolio and those kind of things. So that's there's the automation component of doing project work management is very is all over the place. If you're using these different tools, they don't all have their own kind of workflow engines and things like that. And what we've done is we've standardized in the Microsoft platform on the Power Platform. So it brings a lot of consistency to that. So we'll talk about that. And then the last piece is kind of time wasted using manual or vendor specific data connection. So back to that, chasing the information and trying to get better reporting constructs. What ends up happening is people, if they're not doing it manually using spreadsheets, they're trying to use vendor provided APIs and other things to connect up other line of business applications. Maybe it's an ERP, accounting, those kind of things to get to tie in financial information. And without some consistency there, you're doing it different with every single application or work point execution tools. Right. So there's a lot of value to bringing all that into the Power Platform as well, because all those connectors are built in and you can start to really leverage. And really the whole idea is you're getting into a centralized kind of data, the Dataverse. It's a more centralized, normalized way to manage project across execution tools. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. And there seems to be a lot of interest in it. Like you said, just after a couple of days of opening the registration, we've got, I think we're approaching 300 registrants already.
Yeah.
And Microsoft's going to be there. We're excited to have them again. And this is one of many that we've done that we're doing in partnership with them. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's a really good topic. We talk about those things kind of all the time, but put it together as the 5 steps. I think people are going to really benefit from that. And the Teams for PM product solution that we have really does combine that data together into one place, and allow the different execution paths, like you'd said. And it's built on that Power Platform, which allows that extensibility.
Right.
So
Yep.
we'll talk about that some more. Good stuff. So that's when? February
22nd.
22nd, I think. Okay.
February 22nd. Yep.
So check your calendar here. The link to register is available. Where's the?
We'll put
We'll
it in
just
right
put it
here.
right here. Okay, link to
Yeah, you'll
register
have
is
to retype
available.
it, but it's
Yep.
there.
Yeah. So so check it out, or just go to teams4pm.com and click on the registration link there, and check it out. So we'll hope to see you there. So Mike, I'm in Jacksonville. The Jaguars got pretty far this year. I'm
They did.
becoming more of a Jags
Cinderella
fan
team.
every year. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's nice to, it's kind of cool to have an underdog, right? So a lot of football, a lot of folks talking football, and we got the Super Bowl coming up.
We do. Yep. The time when they're going to consume the most guacamole of any other day of the year. Little known
Right.
fact, Super Bowl.
That's good. So we were talking about it, kind of just on the phone the other day. Like, if a project manager was on a football team, what position would they be?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think what a lot of people would probably kind of go to as a first go to would be like the quarterback, right?
Right. Of course, they're going to say, well, obviously the project manager is the quarterback, but I think non-project managers would say that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Then the thing I kind of see a quarterback as being more like the maybe the stakeholder, or one of the key executives that are in there, who really they have the decision ability to kind of change the plays as necessary. And we talked about deconflicting or changing priorities, that they can do that on the fly, real time. I think. And I'll just give you. I think there's one on each side of the ball, right? There's offense and defense, and we talked a little bit about this, but I'll tell you who I think it is and see if you agree. On the offense, I think it's the center. I
Oh,
think
yeah. Yeah.
I think
Why
it's the
do you
guy.
think that?
Well, it's the guy. It's so I played football for a while when I was younger,
Okay.
and I didn't grow fast enough to play. I was too small to get into the into the college level, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I played line and I played linebacker, so I understood a little bit about how the line calls and stuff goes. So the center, the guy at the center that hikes the ball, everybody sees it if you don't know football. They also typically is the guy who calls any of the blocking assignments. So if they see a linebacker lined up in a slot, they'll call an audible on the line of how they're going to change those blocking assignments to try to protect the quarterback or execute the run play that they want. So they're the one who's having to react real time to what's going on in front of them,
Right.
down in the they call it the trenches there, and really help make whatever else is going on, all the spectacular stuff you see going on. If the line doesn't perform well, and those calls aren't made correctly, then the play's not going anywhere. That's when you see a sack or an interception or a stuff back in the backfield or something like that.
No, I totally agree. I think it's the center. Absolutely. We talk about project managers moving obstacles, and impediments, right? And what's a better representation of that, but the actual like blocking and tackling that has to happen, and the leadership.
290-pound lineman, right?
Defensive lineman,
who wants to kill the quarterback.
Sometimes as a project manager, you feel like you need to be a lineman, protect your quarterback. And I don't know if I'm necessarily like full agreement that the quarterback's the sponsor. I think I see more of the quarterback as being like, how you're on a project team, and there's really maybe 1, 2, 3 people that are actually doing all the work. They might be, the most knowledgeable about it. They might be the experts or the architect, or just the rock star, on an IT project, just a rock star developer. What you're trying to do is make sure that person is successful, or those people are successful.
That's a good point.
And so
those guys, the running backs and the receivers,
right,
the skill positions.
Yeah, the people that actually move the ball down the field. Like, when I was a project manager, I was trying to introduce the concept of critical path to people, and understand, so they understand like who has the ball, like, and literally took a football into the conference room, and I said, okay, so who's on the critical path this week? And I would really just toss the football to that person to say, Bill's on a critical path. He's got this and this task to accomplish this week. Everybody else, make sure that Bill is successful. So let's help him out, because if Bill's late, then basically, the project's late.
Right.
So I feel like
Exactly.
project manager is like the person hiking the ball to the team, trying to move obstacles and impediments and make sure that they can perform at a high level, which is kind of like what the center does.
Right, exactly. There's one other thing that I think we've touched on before. The center actually is not calling the play itself. They're calling the
Right.
blocking
That's right.
assignments,
Yeah.
right? So project managers almost always don't have a lot of direct line authority over this. It's almost
Right.
always some form of matrix. You got developers, you got engineers, you got people on your staff that are those skill positions, and you don't have the ability to really tell them what to do.
No.
Um, not formally like in an HR fashion. You have to influence them. You have to say, hey, this is
Right.
what's best. And it's kind of the same way with the line, right? It's like if we're going to make this
Yeah.
play successful, you better you right guard pick up that linebacker who's coming in before he kills the quarterback, right?
Yeah. It's
So
not your offense. It's not your system. It's not the center's choice what play to run
right.
and what offense to run or where people are going to be positioned. Um, Nor is it the project manager's project. It's not your project.
Nope, it's
You're
the
assigned to the
organizations.
project. You're the representative on that project. You're where the buck stops with that project, but it's not your project, and it's certainly not your system that you're operating under,
Right.
is it?
Yep, exactly. So if you flip to the other side of the ball, who do you think it is on the defense?
Yeah, there's not, this is kind of tough because there's really no offense, defense. You're always doing both, right?
Right.
But I think as far as the most direct analogy, it would be like the defensive back position, the one that, and I'm not like a football mind, so people are probably listening to this and be like, Brian doesn't know the football positions.
Yeah, so it's probably like you say a DB, usually a linebacker or one of the defensive backs or safeties who's in a
Yeah,
position to see what the offense is setting up, and they'll make that defensive adjustment on the fly there, sort of like the center does. So they'll
like a safety,
and
yeah. When I was growing up, I was a big Bears fan, and I think about Mike Singletary, in the backfield, with the eyes, always looking, always seeing what's going on, where he's going to position himself, always watching the whole field,
mhm.
and really having like a perspective of looking at everything. And I think that
Right.
sometimes project managers have to do that.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that was fun.
So who do
Some
you
people may
like?
disagree with us, but
So
that's fine.
Chiefs or Eagles, Mike?
Oh boy, that's tough. I would like to see the Chiefs win, but I've watched the Eagles play a few times, and if they're on their game, it's gonna be hard for the Chiefs to pull that off, I think. But you never know. That's why they play the game.
That's why they play the game. You look at it, there's a lot of all the drama with like Mahomes and the ankle injury and stuff like
Mhm.
that, building up. So we'll see how it turns out. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to eat a lot of guacamole. And
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
said.
guacamole and chips.
All right, so let's take a look at the customer corner.
Yeah,
So
customer corner.
this is like a segment where, we talk about something that happened between this episode of Are You Done Yet and last, where, we don't mention any particular customers by name, of course, usually, but unless we have a case study or something. But something that happened that was interesting that we thought we might want to share with others in a general way, which would be helpful.
Right.
So I think we have something in mind today, right?
Yeah, we do. There's actually one of the customers we're working with. We've been doing a lot of their automation, and one of their executives went to their customers. So we're supporting this organization who has a bunch of customers, which is very typical of kind of what we do, developing and building and continuing to support product that helps their business. And in this case, it's actually outside of the traditional project management space. This is more I would consider work management and workflow to help them support their customers. So a challenge was presented, and this customer went to his customers and said, "Look, we can help. I can, with me and our team, being Innovative E, can help solve this problem." It was a lot of document management, and they were working with OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and they had all these forms that they needed to do, and there were thousands of these forms, and they were literally these different companies. Like one company had 1,200 locations, and they had multiple forms per location that they had to file.
Hmm.
And what they were doing is they were going out and hiring like temporary workers because they have to do it. I think it's annually. Were hiring 2, 3, 4 people for a couple, 3 weeks to go process all this stuff manually. And of
Hmm.
course, it was, there's some errors and things that happen because of human error and things. So we were actually able to automate that over a course of, I don't think it took more than maybe a week or two to pretty much automate, debug, and work the whole thing. And I think the first run they did, they processed somewhere around 3,000 forms, and they had 6 errors. Um,
Huh.
and and then they'll continue to refine that till there's some error handling in that. But think about all the time that was just one customer. There were 4 or 5 of their customers they did. So think of all the time that's taking out, the human time that's taking out of having to manually do all this work, and what it's freeing up in terms of that time for those managers and those folks who are working with all these folks to do other things that they can really put their time and effort into, that really once you can automate there's why would humans be doing something that's a repetitive task over and over again
Right.
if you can automate it? So it allows the humans to apply their intellectual capital towards doing something more valuable.
Wow, that's a really great story. It has nothing to do with project management.
Nope, not really. It's just a sort of complicated workflow. But but the individual pieces aren't that hard. You open a PDF, you fill
Yeah.
out some stuff, you save the PDF, you scan it or whatever, and you send
Hmm.
it, or you have spreadsheets that track all the different steps you have to do or whatever. You put all that together and automate it. And we did all this in Power Platform, by the way. So it's all in Power
Yeah.
Automate using the workflow engine, and they love it. I mean, it's been just rave reviews.
It's amazing. It's like real business impact, on the time
Hmm.
that it takes and the cost of doing something like that. It's really cool that we've got these project skills, but we also have the Power Platform chops now to be able to do these things because of what we built in Power Platform with Teams for PM, and having basically exposed the skill set to our team and the certifications that we're now getting on our team to be able to build business process automation solutions for our customers that are non-project related. So it's really opening up a whole new world for Innovative E.
Oh yeah, I think it was about 3.5, 4 years ago that we were first exposed to Microsoft's vision, and they took project. And I got a little project decal here, a little promotion. The project for the web was actually built from the bottom up on the Power Platform. I think it was only the second workload that was natively built on the Power Platform, and they were calling it CDS, but the Dataverse type of thing. So we embraced that fully, and we committed to build the product. And in building a product, you learn an awful lot about what you can and can't do and all the
Yep.
ins and outs of it and everything else. So our team really got in, rolled up their sleeves, and learned how you make these things happen. So now, like you said, now we're applying that expertise and discipline and all the components around how you do it. We've been doing software development for a long time, which is probably a little known fact. We've since I think about 2005 or 2006, we've had continuous software development efforts with customers, with multiple customers. So
Right.
lots of customers we've had for 10 or more years where we've been doing application development. Now it's moving more towards the Power Platform. We still do some other full stack development in Microsoft and related technologies, but it's really moving in that place because it accelerates the development process. It's and so that's really kind of where we're going, and we see a lot going that way. There's a huge buzz out there, everything from AI to automation. I did a separate video just talking about AI, with all the buzz about Chat GPT and everything. I just felt compelled to say a few things about it. But it is a subset of automation, though, and I think one thing I'd like to mention that I mentioned in that one as well is you're hearing an awful lot about some of the economic headwinds. There's sadly, there's very long list of tech companies and folks who've been doing layoffs and things like that.
Yep.
But one of the things that people always turn to, and you've heard Microsoft and Satya Nadella say this and other folks, is you have to do more with less, and that's what automation does. And so
Right.
that example we had a minute ago in the customer corner, it's a great example of doing more with less, right? They didn't
Yep.
have to go hire more people. They were able to do
Mhm.
this, which is, some people would say, well, maybe it's costing jobs. Yes and no. I mean, ultimately, efficiency helps everyone. There was also an article that was published by, it was republished by Jared Spataro, who's one of the executives at Microsoft, and they were talking about AI and automation and the effect it's going to have by 2025. They believe that it's going to eliminate 85 million jobs, which sounds horrible, but on the flip side, it's going to create 97 million new jobs. So it's actually a net new. And in the interim, as it's doing that, it's creating this opportunity for all these things like we just talked about. That was just one really small example. There'll be tens and thousands of these types of examples out there where customers are able to do this, and it creates overall value to the system, which helps everyone, right? And it's actually kind of lofty, right? It helps humanity to continue to push forward in efficiency and make that cycle faster. So it's actually pretty exciting times from that perspective that the platform is there now, and it's able to do so many things and take advantage of us and hundreds and thousands of other partners out there helping customers do these kind of things.
Especially automating like a regulatory activity like that, like a
Yeah,
certification or a form that you need to fill out that really doesn't have, the human is not adding any value to the process.
right,
They're basically just completing steps, and in order to, make sure that, that the company is compliant in
right,
some way.
exactly.
That's really prime candidates for automation.
Yep. Yeah. So the value created there is taking the human element out of it, right, and
Right. So
making
they can do other things that are less,
that the machines can't do.
mundane. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Makes total sense to me. All right, Mike, I think we're ready to wrap up this episode of Are You Done Yet?
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun, and look forward to the next one.
Yep. Don't forget, webinar, February 22nd. Register now. 5 keys to project management nirvana.
And don't forget to
Well,
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
subscribe. I got to remember to say that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, everybody.
That's right.
We need more subscribers.
Well, one of
So,
the things it does for us is it enables us to continue to promote the content more easily, and people can
right.
consume it faster because it's in their threads and everything else. So it really is a benefit if you're interested in what we have to say to subscribe to our channel.
My kids already think I'm a YouTuber, so we're not going to disappoint anybody.
Yeah, I don't know if we're quite at the influencer stage, but we're definitely, we get a lot of views, so that's awesome.
All right, we'll see everybody next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.